Welcome to Coatings Cast, the ultimate podcast dedicated to the science, art, and innovation of liquid and fluid applied roofing, coatings for surfaces, and waterproofing. It's time to roll up our sleeves, put on our lab coats, and dive headfirst into the world of liquid protection that keeps your roofs and surfaces in prime condition. The future is here, and it's liquid, so don't miss out. This is Coatings Cast, where every drop counts in the world of roof and surface protection.
On the Everest System soundstage here in Daytona Beach, and this is our very first interview, and it is going to be a Coatings Cast podcast. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and I am here with Gabe. Gabe, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
You know what? First of all, I want to say thank you to Everest for sponsoring our soundstage.
Yes.
You guys are the bomb.
Well, we try.
You have a great booth down there.
You guys have done a pretty. You've grown your niche a bunch.
We tried.
Yeah,
It's
fun.
We love it. It's fun. You know what? We love contractors and we love manufacturers.
Yeah.
But when you come to these kind of shows, you get to see all these different manufacturers. I don't know. I just came from the awards ceremony. I don't think people realize how much is being done by some amazing contractors on the roof with spray foam.
Yeah, it's an interesting. So, SPFA is interesting just in general because it's a very niche market to begin with. Like we're dealing with. Obviously focusing on spray foam and the technologies that go along with that. And spray foam is super unique, right? Because it's not just walls. It's also, if you actually go back historically, the spray foam show was actually started on the roofing side of things, and then the walls have kind of grown out of it. Obviously, there's a lot of wall foam here too. Then we make lots. Everest makes products. Lots of other manufacturers make products. But if we don't have contractors, then things don't go well.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
we need that installation.
The number one limiting factor to the foam and coating industry growing is contractors.
Yes.
And we need more and more well-trained and ambitious and great contractors that are taking care of their area and their spot. And there's more on the roofing side for sure. There's more work to be done than there are roofers. So it's just a great environment to get into. But organizations like the SPFA, it's really great because they also ensure that they're going to get opportunities to get trained, to have a chance to do, because you can also mess things up really bad if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that we have, these organizations are super important because it brings all of us together to help support the contractor, because ultimately whether it's an Everest job or any of the other manufacturers, every job that goes well is good for the whole industry because it represents what can be accomplished through these spray foam systems.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing on these amazing projects out there. And you know what I realized, Gabe, is I didn't start out with the introduction because I got so excited talking about after seeing all these awards and everything. So let's start out. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your history in the industry?
Yep, so Gabe Geffert, I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at Everest. I've been with Everest since 2016. And so the last 8-9 years of the roofing environment has been pretty wild because we've gone through not only, we had COVID, and just before COVID there was blowing agent change, which affects all the spray foam stuff.
Yes.
And then we went into COVID, and then we had supply chain issues and all the different things. And one of the pieces that we've learned about the spray foam and coating industry is that even more so than traditional roofing products, during those times that things are uncertain, we've been very adaptable. We've had a chance to really do a lot of great work when a lot of the traditional supply chains were down.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting.
When you think about the material shortage, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. You guys were there to save the day.
We had some neat opportunities to partner with people and some really cool projects too, right? Things that just weren't getting done.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you think of spray foam and coatings as more of a retrofit type of a system. And during COVID, we did a lot more new construction because they weren't able to get to traditional roofing materials. And turns out we exposed a lot of people to spray foam and to coatings, and they really enjoyed the experience. So now you have an opportunity where your market share is growing, and because foam and coatings, it's about 7-ish% of the overall roofing market.
Yeah.
And while all the traditional roofs are super important too, to grow that percentage of that space, that market share is probably we have just such a huge opportunity to grow. And also because of it is a retrofit type systems that everybody's promoting here. Such a great opportunity to improve things with the environment, not throwing stuff in the landfills. And all this information is the breakout classes, all the different things, educating these contractors on how it's not just about fixing the roof. Yes, that's important. It's not just about insulating the wall, but how do you make the building more efficient? How do you sell that to your end user? How do you value add to the construction project, whether it's roofing or walls? The whole building envelope can be benefited by what's here at Spray Foam.
Exactly. One of the things that I've seen to that point is...
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh.
Everest. Let's talk about Everest.
Yes. Let's talk about Everest
has been, been in the industry for 12 years, started on the roofing side, and now we actually are really unique because we manufacture a whole building envelope. So we do roofing, we have foam and coatings for roofs, and we also do closed cell and open cell for foam too. So yeah, we now have basically the whole building. Any contractor that wants to be a part of the whole building envelope, we have offerings in all spaces.
Which we keep hearing more. The contractors, our commercial contractors are going building envelope.
Yep.
And obviously residential too. But
yeah, I mean it's a big thing. The other piece there is if you're going to want to have one manufacturer for all your warranty needs as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a different foam manufacturer than you do your coating manufacturer and you have an issue, sometimes that can be a problem.
Right.
So manufacturers like Everest, that we manufacture everything from the roof deck up, and then it's a one-stop place to go if you have any issues moving forward. And it also, on the positive side, it ensures that the materials that you're using are all compatible and the systems are meant to go where they're supposed to go. Because if you have multiple manufacturers trying to solve problems together, communication is always an issue.
Right.
So we try and keep that process as streamlined as we can.
And sometimes the chemistry just doesn't match.
Right. That's 100. Yeah. There's so many jobs that get put down that you're expecting the materials to do more than they were ever designed to do.
Right.
And if you put the wrong thing in the wrong place, I don't care what you do, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that exactly, so perfect, because that's where I was going. That comment is thinking about what you and Everest have really seen over the last 10 years, right? Over the last decade. And you were saying, about 7 to 8% of the industry is spray foam. Well, that's up.
I would say, it is up. I would say coatings in general, and spray foam is a part of that. I'm not 100% sure how much. I don't want to be wrong on that piece, but yeah, it's...
That's something we'll look up, because I think that's really interesting, because we just see the growth happening all the time.
It's all the time. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the things that I heard a lot of were some huge contractors who, during the material shortage, we can't get what we need. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start doing spray foam. The other spray foam, lightweight concrete was another one. Mm-hmm. And then so you had a lot of contractors diversifying who now are able to really provide. I saw some things just in that awards thing about how much money contractors are saving building owners by restoring and also doing the spray foam for energy.
It's huge. Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers of cost savings when you go and restore a roof than if you were to go and tear it off and start over. So many costs that you don't think of when you're looking at the project. So if you go in and you traditionally rip the roof off, you got to take all that, put it in the landfill.
Right.
One of the big issues that you have there is as soon as you rip that roof off, you expose the entire inside of the building to weather.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the amount of, and a lot of times if you do that, you don't have access to the inside of your building.
Right.
So if you're a manufacturer, if you're a school, fill in the blank of the different thing you may do in that building. As soon as you rip that roof off, suddenly there's zero production happening in that facility.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that it takes to get back into that facility, because typically we're in commercial applications, mm-hmm. right? And so if you think of a return on investment, whatever they're manufacturing in that building is more important than the roof, really. That's why they're redoing the roof.
Well, because protecting them.
Yeah, so if you're not able to go in and make your widget and you can't go make money, that's lost time, lost profitability. And a lot of times people don't factor in the lost profitability into a restoration versus a replacement.
We've been hearing this so much when it comes to roof restoration. And actually, I was just on a podcast the other day about roof retrofits, right? How are we retrofitting them? How are we How are we using what we have instead of just putting it into landfills? And I don't think it's just coatings or just a spray foam issue. This is really an issue of so many large cities who are out of landfill space, and this is going to be required.
Yeah, and I think the other pieces there too is once you restore a roof. So if you have a roof that you restored, that roof now can be restored indefinitely.
Yes.
And that's the key part too, is that once you get to the life expectancy of that coating, that restoration process, you can come in and for less money than even the original process, go and recoat it and extend the life of that roof membrane again. So in theory, you can keep coating a roof indefinitely, keep restoring a roof indefinitely, which makes that super efficient long term for what goes on.
I agree. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit.
I don't have the ability to talk a little bit.
No, just a little bit. Let's talk a lot about what we're seeing in the industry, because one of the things we just talked about was how much has changed in the last 10 years. Okay, let's just go back a year ago to 2024 spray foam when we were here. What kind of things are you seeing in the spray foam and in the coatings industry? What are some of the big changes over the last year?
So the biggest change was as of the first of 2025, you can no longer use the 245 blowing agent. So most people had transitioned out of that, but for all the old timers that didn't want to change, right? That line of the sand was drawn, and so that's all over as of 2025.
2025.
And
done.
so there's been, so that's been probably the biggest change, that it was mandatory that had to happen. And then within that change, there's some different blowing agents and different formulations that have come about because of that. And that also applies to the roof and the walls, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest thing that's changed.
And so how's the industry had a number of years to get ready for this, right?
Yes.
It was like 3 or 4 years.
If they're surprised by it, something was drastically wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that was a 100% environmental change. And those types of things, how do you see that? That's good for the industry. Is that something the contractor should be talking about?
Yeah, I think that's one of the pieces one of the things that's really important is that that the contractor is being educated by their manufacturers to know what's coming down the pipe, right? So that they have a chance to, because it does affect the equipment a little bit differently, so they have a chance to be prepared for those changes before they come into play.
Yeah.
And then once that so they're not caught by surprise, right? That's a big thing.
I mean, you don't want your contractors caught by surprise.
And the other part too is on the manufacturing side, we want to take our time to introduce those things as well, because we want those to perform as good, if not better, than the previous blowing agents.
Right.
So and during COVID, some of those new blowing agents that came out for 2020 that we thought were going to be readily available through COVID, that kind of changed, and so we had to make some adjustments that way. But I think the industry is in a pretty good spot right now as far as like having their mind around what those blowing agents are and the changes that need to have happened, because it got introduced over the last few years.
Which makes sense. I mean, that's the way it should. Regulation should work, and it should work for the betterment of the industry and and the environment across the board. What are you? I mean, we're hearing a lot of different things that are going on in Florida with insurance, extreme weather. We now have a new administration with, supposedly lessening of regulations. Anything that contractors should be looking at out there that you've been aware of?
So, I mean, we cover whole country, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the pieces to keep in mind is everybody's area is a little bit different. And I think that's another reason to partner with a manufacturer that has lots of options. Obviously shameless promotion for us, but we manufacture acrylic and silicone coatings, our own sealants, foam, and also wall foam, right? So all the different things we can cover. But one of the pieces that I've been talking to my contractors about is, yes, there are some challenges and difficulties that are out there, but there are also very much opportunities, right? So within, take Florida, there are some things going on in Florida that we've been able to understand how to better address the issues with the insurance company, and some systems that we have available that they're accepting as full system replacements, right?
So all of a sudden now they have the opportunity.
Right, they have the opportunity to still use, liquid applied materials to solve that problem. Yeah, it may look just a little bit different than it did before, but we're going to have to embrace those changes. And again, I think that the liquid applied side of life, as far as roofing goes, because it's so adaptable to so many different environments, it puts us in a really great spot to be able to grow that. It just makes sense.
It does. It just makes sense. That's the part that I look at. And I think we can't just keep tearing off and putting on new stuff. Not that there isn't a time and a place. Obviously, there's some roofs that just have to be torn off.
Yeah, and another big thing that I see with contractors, which is positive, contractors focusing more and more on service and repair.
Yes.
And getting on those roofs before they're totally worn out.
Yes.
Right? Because we can do a lot with a membrane that is not totally shot. If we can get to it when it's 80% of its roof life, we can do a much better job of restoring that at a much more reasonable cost, right? So, and the mentality of the roofer that's out there, I think, is their game is getting better all the time, and they're trying to serve their roofing's really unique because you're really serving a very regional area for the most part. You're taking care of your community.
Yeah.
And if you can really listen to what that community needs, you can be very successful still as a contractor.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about differentiation because we, as you know, we've been on the edge of recession for 3, 4, 5, 10 years right now, right? And so we're kind of slowly going, oh, when's it going to happen next? Or is it going to happen? But I think for any good business, for any contracting business, it's about diversifying and being able to kind of flow with where the work is and what's happening with all the different things. Everest offers products that cross all planes, whether you're residential, commercial, inside, outside, building envelope, the whole 9 yards. How many contractors are you seeing who are starting to adopt, maybe they're traditionally roofing contractors, are they starting to adopt the building envelope? Are they starting to adopt doing some internal insulation? How's that looking?
Well, the equipment works both ways, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely some crossover. I think that we do see a little bit of it, right? Where you have guys that see opportunities that can go do X, Y, or Z, and that they're not necessarily always. Probably see people getting into the roofing space more that direction than the other. Okay. But I see a little bit of that. Specifically with the roofing, I don't want to say that it's recession proof. That's not the right word. But the reality is what we have to offer to the market is how do you make something that exists last longer, right? So in the event that you have a recession, quote unquote, or when you have people really not sure about what's going on in the environment, they tend to want to come up with more cost-effective ways to make things last longer.
Right.
And so that puts all of the things that we have in that situation.
It fits perfect.
Yeah, it's great. And then even on the new construction side, to do with the wall foam, if you go and you insulate your building properly, your monthly expenses on your insulating your building go way, way down, right? So you have such an efficient building with spray foam in the roof and in the walls. It's just wild.
It makes sense to offer that whole thing, be talking to your building owners, especially obviously if you're new construction, but also in retrofit or restoration. I think that we're going to see more of that too, especially those huge.
And people become more and more conscientious about those monthly bills, right?
Yeah.
And as cost of energy goes up, the value of insulation goes up at the same rate.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, what we're starting to see is people are understanding that if they can control the environment of the building inside, they can also do so much more, especially when you're talking about data centers. We just saw a thing at the awards on making whiskey, but there's also this increasing demand of controlling it. I don't know.
I mean, would that be cool? That'd be pretty solid.
I know. I would love that.
A little bit of horse trading there.
Yeah, a little bit. It was pretty interesting. But it seems to me that there's just I guess what my point in there is that there's so many drivers really driving the market towards the spray foam solutions, both roof and walls.
Yeah, and I think it drives back to what you first started talking about, like what's the value of spray foam? Yeah. SPFA is if we can educate. It's an education sale, right? Right. So if you can gain the trust of the person you're working with, and if the contractor is educated to understand their value proposition so that they are doing the best for their customer, and these organizations, these trade shows are a great opportunity for contractors to really understand what it takes to go out and market themselves and these products to be successful.
To put them together. So, okay, you brought it up, and I think we passed right over that question, but being involved with SPFA, I want to kind of hit back on the training. They're doing field services, they're certified, the contractors. How important is it for Everest to be involved with SPFA and really helping with that training of the, skilled labor? That's the thing. That's what we need.
Yep. So you asked earlier, like, what are the trends that we see? Well, one of the things that we see is that the traditional spray foam contractor is aging out, right? So if we want peace, if we want to, I'm sorry, did I break the fourth wall?
We are live at SPFA.
Yeah, if we want to see this grow, then we have to invest in the next generation that's coming up and what it means to be a spray foam contractor. Yeah. So that's a big deal.
It really does. And getting the next generation excited
and
about
if we don't,
being part of it.
Yeah, and if we're not going to be involved, if we're not willing to commit as manufacturers to support these moments, then we're going to be short. It's very short-sighted thinking. Because we need great contractors out there.
Yeah. Well, I've been seeing Everest everywhere. You guys are on the bags.
That is the plan. We're on the bags. We're on the front of this. Yep.
Sponsoring the sound stage. It's so exciting. And I really think when you see the awards, you see the excitement of the applicators getting trained. I really do think that's going to make a huge difference. So let's talk a little bit about Everest.
Okay.
Let's talk about what is new. What's new this year? What can people walking over to your booth right now, which I see down there, looks beautiful. What are you showing? What are you talking about?
Yeah, so I mean the biggest thing that we have this year is introducing our wall foam, so half pound and closed cell wall foam. That's a new venture for us. So it's been a few years in the development, so that's pretty exciting. But one of the things with Everest is we're constantly trying to be as innovative as possible.
Yes.
So one of the things that we're super excited about is that we're in 2025 we are planning on launching our PFA free foam, which would be a pretty big deal because it's the next step in the environmental. As the HFO foams are out there now, but with some of these forever chemicals that are tied to the HFO foams and some concerns about that, we're trying to look into the future. And in talking with our foam business manager, that's been in the works, and so we're pretty excited about that.
That is exciting.
Yep.
So for the contractors out there who maybe are not familiar with spray foam as of yet, and they're going to be getting in on this, when you talk about PFA, and you just said it, the forever chemicals and stuff, but what kind of advantages does that bring overall, PFA, for the environment and also just for them as contractors?
Well, I mean, every time there's a new regulation that comes out, right, it's trying to solve a problem that's out there, whether it's a functional problem, is trying to make the products perform better, or whether it's an environmental problem, which obviously the HFO foams were solving another problem, right?
Yeah.
And but as you solve problems, you find out about new ones too, and so we want to be doing this, be as responsible as we can be for the environment as we're doing these things. I mean, we are in the chemical industry, right? So I mean, those are things.
Yeah.
But even in the midst of being in the chemical industry, we've got to be responsible as we look forward. But we have to be responsible, but we also have to be make sure that we're performing well too, right? So to make a change for change's sake, and if we don't have the performance that we expect, then that's bad too.
But if you have both,
you're killing it. Yep. So at Everest, we try and have things that improve not only the functionality with the materials within the project, but then also improve either the safety or efficiency or the things that really affect the contractors. Our goal is to put things in contractors' hands that make them more money. I mean, that's the name of the game, right?
That's it.
And anything we can do to make them more efficient on the job site, that's what we're trying to come up with.
And I also think efficiency on the job site, the right products, making it easy, but then also having the right products to offer to the building owners. And you said something earlier that I just want to jump on, and not getting stymied by regulations, actually working with manufacturers who are looking ahead.
Yep, right.
Not being forced, but they're actually working ahead to make sure it's the right combination.
What I find when I talk to contractors out, and I, because of my role at Everest, I kind of go across the whole country, right?
Right.
But then if there's a theme that I see between any of them that we're visiting, they want solution to those problems. They want to know, they want someone to understand what's happening and how they can not get around it, but how they can fix the problem and do it right.
Right.
You know, and because people aren't, for the most part, you know, contractors are trying to do the right thing. They're not trying to cut corners, which is great.
Yeah.
But they want to have a manufacturer that has options of how to do things correctly in those moments, right?
Yeah.
And so part of that
good.
also has to be manufacturers that have the experience on the roof and understand how the systems go together, have the experience in the walls to make sure that they understand how those systems go together, because it's the partnership between the contractor and the manufacturer to put that together for the end user.
Exactly. And you know what? That all, man, you just circled it back around, Gabe. You are so awesome. It brings it back to working with your manufacturer for training, understanding the products, understanding the regulations, and then circling back to be involved with SPFA to really get that training, get that certification, bringing it all together. And that's the thing I think for a lot of contractors out there who might be going, you know, we just don't know if we can do spray foam or not. There is a whole platform here of training, which a lot of different products don't have. And
not only that, like if people are interested in spray foam and putting that arrow in their quiver, there's also contractors here that are willing to help them get into it too, right? So if you have an opportunity to do a wall foam project or a spray foam roofing project, there are contractors here that are more than happy to walk alongside you and give you a bid to go and perform the labor for it. You know, that's another thing.
This is a tight group.
It is.
It is a tight group, and they support each other. They support mentoring, training, all of those kind of things. So, okay, you're going to be at IRE next week.
Be at IRE next week.
Yep. So be sure to everybody to go visit Everett this week. At the SPFA, you are in booth
111.
111. Yep. I need my glasses.
If they can't read numbers, just look up and we've got the Everest sign up above the booth. It
looks great. And if contractors come into your booth, what are you going to be talking? Got anything fun?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the SPFA, right? So we're obviously focused on foam and full foam systems, but we also have our coating systems. And then, so we're talking about wall foam and then roofing systems.
Yeah.
We got some giveaways. We got some beanies down there and some other hats, and I'm sure we got some pens. Lots of paraphernalia.
Lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. And I have to tell you, spray foam coatings all together.
It goes well.
The contractors who are putting it all together are the ones who are having huge success.
Yeah.
Gabe, thank you. You are a wealth of knowledge.
Take it till you make it.
You are doing great. And I want to say thank you again for being for Everest being the sponsor of the Soundstage. I'm very excited that this Coatings Cast was live here at SPFA.
That's right.
First
no edits
on the Everest. It's live right now on YouTube, and it will be going out on your favorite podcast channel. So be sure to check out the Everest directory on Coatings Coffee Shop and Roofers Coffee Shop. Find out everything that they're doing and what's going on. Also check out all of our Coatings Cast podcasts on Coatings Coffee Shop under the Read, Listen, Watch. Find your favorite on your favorite channel, subscribe, and get those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. We'll be seeing you next time on Coatings Cast.
Thanks for joining us on this coating adventure. Stay tuned for more episodes, and in the meantime, be sure to follow us on social media to stay updated with all things roof coatings. Until next time, stay coated. For more information, go to coatingscoffeeshop.com.